Hey, good afternoon, everyone. It looks like we just need a few more commissioners to join us so that we can have a quorum, and we'll be getting started shortly. Hey, Paul and Stephen, at this time, are we ready? Are we all set to go?
I know I'm ready.
Commissioner Stewart.
Yeah, we're ready to go in the council chamber as well.
Okay, I'm sorry, Missy, I didn't hear you. What'd you say, Missy? Missy?
I think that was Larry speaking. I think he said we were ready to go. Can you weigh in again, Larry?
Yes, we're ready to go in the council chamber.
Okay. All right. At this time now at 1:34 on Tuesday, April 27, 2021, I called the CPC meeting to order. We will start with a roll call of all commissioners present. At this time now, Commissioner Brown.
Present.
Commissioner Lund.
Present.
Commissioner Mobley.
Present.
Commissioner Steve. Commissioner Steve.
I'm here. Thank you. Sorry, I was on mute.
Okay. Commissioner Stewart is present, and Commissioner Whittree.
Present.
All right. Those were the commissioners that I saw online before the screen change. Has any other, did I miss any commissioner? All right. So at this time, we have 6 commissioners present, and we have a quorum. At this time now, I'll read the special hearing rules into record.
Commissioner Stewart, could I interrupt for just a moment?
Yes.
Just wanted to say happy birthday to Commissioner Whittree.
Happy
Thank you, Commissioner Lund.
Yay.
Yes, the big 45, ladies. Here we go.
What a great way to celebrate.
It's good to be with everybody.
Okay.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
All right. The order of business. The order of business at the hearing shall be as followed: call to order and a roll call with recording of members present, approval of minutes, reading of hearing rules, presentation of docket, staff presentation, applicant presentation, questions from members, a recess for 30 minutes to hear public comment, a consideration of dockets, public comment, rebuttal by applicant, questions from members, voting, adjournment. Presentation of dockets. The order of business for each docket shall be as follows: presentation by the City Planning Commission staff, presentation by the applicant or their representatives. The appellate or applicant may appear on their behalf or be represented by a duly authorized agent. Only one representative may speak on behalf of a request and must pre-register with the staff of the City Planning Commission. Other representatives or speakers may sign up to provide comment during the public comment portion of the meeting. The applicant shall be allowed a maximum of 2 minutes. Questions from members. The members have an opportunity to ask questions of the staff or the applicant. Recess. The commission shall take a 30-minute recess to allow members of the public to comment. Public comment. Rules. Only written public comment will be allowed. Live public comment will not be allowed. No member of the public may submit more than one written comment per agenda item. Time allowed for public comment. The public comment form will be made available at the start of the meeting and will close at the end of the 30-minute recess. Form. Public comments must be submitted electronically on the form provided by the City Planning Commission. Any comments missing this information will not be read aloud. Each submission must contain the commenter's first and last name, the commenter's address, and whether the commenter is being paid in connection with his or her comments, and also the agenda item. Reading of public comments. A moderator will read into record all comments pertaining to that item that have been submitted. In accordance with these rules, comments will be read aloud in a normal speaking voice. The moderator will discontinue reading a comment once it exceeds 2 minutes. Rebuttal by the applicant. Following the public comment period, if there is opposition, the authorized representative of the application is allowed a rebuttal not to exceed 2 minutes. Questions from members. Following the public comment and rebuttal, the members have an opportunity to ask questions of the staff or applicant. Voting. Making a motion. The member making a motion shall clearly state their name when making a motion. For example, I, Commissioner Stewart, move to approve, deny the request. Seconding the motion. The member seconding the motion shall clearly state their name when seconding the motion. For example, I, Commissioner Stewart, second the motion made by Commissioner Brown. Statement by the chair. The chair will restate the motion confirming who made and seconded the motion. Voting. The chair will request a verbal vote from each member by roll call. Each member will indicate yay to vote in support of the motion or nay to vote in opposition. At this time now, we'll go to our agenda. The first item on the agenda for today is the adoption of the minutes of the April 13th, 2021 meeting.
Witry will move to adopt the minutes from the April 13th, 2021 meeting.
Is there a second to that motion?
Brown will second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Witry and seconded by Commissioner Brown for adoption of the minutes of the April 13th, 2021 meeting. At this time, is there any further discussion on the motion? All right. If there's no further discussion on the motion, I'll call the question. Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Lund,
Yes.
Commissioner Mobley,
Yes.
Commissioner Steed,
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart, yes. Commissioner Witry.
Yes.
Right, unanimous support for the motion of approval of adoption of the minutes. Now at this time, we'll go on to presentation of our dockets. We're starting with zoning docket 2621.
This is Steven. I'm not seeing Valerie on the call, so I'll go ahead and present. This is a proposal to expand and really redevelop as a gas station an existing convenience store located at the corner of Tulane and Broad, opposite the Criminal Courts building. It's currently it's a triangular site that is basically entirely paved over and used by a convenience store. The proposal is to install gasoline pumps and renovate the store such that it would be used as a gasoline station. That use is a conditional use within this particular zoning district. And so the City Planning Commission's recommendation is required. In the course of the review, this went before the Design Advisory Committee, and the committee and the staff noted that there were some discrepancies between the plans that were submitted and the survey that shows the site boundaries. And so the DAC deferred the matter and asked that revised corrected plans be submitted. They've been submitted. but the staff has not had an opportunity yet to complete the report based on those revised plans. And so the staff requests that this be deferred until the May 11th meeting.
All right, commissioners, we received a request by staff for a deferral. At this time, I'm going to ask the applicant present.
Can I just say something, Stephen? The staff report says recommending deferral till May 25th. I wasn't sure if that was you were in error or the report's in error.
I was in error in this case, it's May 20th.
Thanks.
All right. So is the applicant, representative of the applicant present?
Yes, this is Chris Young. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we have no objection to the request for deferral.
Thank you. At this time, commissioners, do you have any questions for staff as it relates to this docket or the representative that's present? There's no further discussion. We'll continue on to zoning docket 2721. And at this time, I'm going to ask that, I don't think Commissioner Flick is with us. So I'm going to ask Commissioner Witry, if you don't mind, to chair this zoning docket, and I'm going to recuse myself.
Yes, I'd be happy to. Zoning docket 027-21. I'm not certain who has the staff report on this one.
That's me.
Oh,
Zoning docket.
Hello, Emily.
Hi, thank you. Happy birthday. Zoning docket 2721 is a request for an amendment to ordinance number 25090 MCS, zoning docket 09812, to permit the expansion of the Stuart R. Bradley School campus to include a portion of the adjacent Lot 1 or lots G, H, and K, a portion of proposed Lot 2-A for use as an accessory parking lot in an OSN neighborhood open space district. The existing primary educational facility campus is situated on a 132,000 approximate square foot site. The Orleans Parish School Board proposes to expand the site to 177,500 square feet to accommodate a new parking lot with 31 off-street parking spaces, including 2 ADA spaces and a two-way driving aisle. The contemplated area of expansion includes a portion of Union Park or Square. Part of the property disposition in 2015, the City of New Orleans transferred the land to Orleans Parish School Board, provided that it and the adjacent Fox Playground remain as parks and be available for community use. The subject conditional use is associated with and contingent upon subdivision docket 2121, which the Commission granted tentative approval at the previous meeting. Both the proposed subdivision and Proviso 11 of the original conditional use ordinance trigger the need to go before the City Planning Commission and City Council to amend the original ordinance to expand the site. If both the subdivision and the conditional use are approved, the school could provide the proposed accessory parking in the OSN district as a matter of right in accordance with Article 22, Section 22(8)(b)(2). Finding that the proposal is inconsistent with the master plan's parkland and open space FLUM designation and incongruous with the intent of the OSN neighborhood open space district, staff must recommend denial of zoning docket 2721.
Mr. Hill, are you representing the applicant?
Yes, I am, Commissioner, and happy birthday to you. Thank you to staff and Emily for preparing the report and for giving the presentation. Orleans Parish School Board is seeking the Commission's approval of this docket to allow for improvements to a portion of Union Park, not just the expansion of the school, by providing a surface parking lot adjacent to the existing school. When the building was originally being designed in 2012, the conditional use that was approved at that time included a substantial parking reduction from 59 spaces to 14. Since then, it's become really clear that insufficient parking for the school causes congestion and other concerns for neighbors. And this project will ameliorate the parking situation for the neighborhood and the school, while at the same time improving the park's ability to manage stormwater as well as provide shaded off-street parking for both park users and teachers at the school as well as neighbors. So we respectfully disagree with this staff report, reasons for denial. We interpret this project as a compatible use within the parkland and open space designation. being that it is both a beneficial improvement to an existing park that will also provide much needed parking for the school and will ultimately improve the usefulness of and access to this public open space. So I'm happy to take any questions that you may have regarding this request.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Hill?
Sure.
Oh,
This
go
is
ahead.
Commissioner
Yeah.
Mobley. Talk to me more about how water management and additional shade are part of the plan for this redevelopment.
Yes, so thank you for the question. First and foremost, there is a gorgeous live oak tree out there that's at least 100 years old, and we've taken great lengths to avoid that altogether and design around it so that that tree can be preserved and it can continue to be what we see as an anchor to this park. Additionally, and I wish it was in the presentation, I sent it to Mr. Kramer earlier today, but there is one of the things I think would be really useful in looking at this is the way that purple portion of the site is being used right now. And essentially there's no active park users that are operating within there. But what is happening is that water is collecting back there, coming straight off of the 3-story school building and draining out to that purple area. And right now, if you look at the aerial, there are large mud ruts from where people are cutting through from Elder to St. Roch and kind of tearing up, driving through that portion of the site anyway. So number one, you can tell it's mushy out there because there are these big mud ruts you can see from the aerial image. So this project would obviously introduce subsurface drainage as well as permeable paving to convey that water to the storm drains that are under St. Roch and that are already built, as part of the original school design. So it's really going to drastically improve the usability of that area. And it also is the reason we, in addition to the sweeping curve that avoids the tree, we pushed the parking lot as far as we could toward the school to remain so that the park could remain as open as possible while allowing this much needed parking to exist.
Thank you.
I have a question for Emily, just because I think it could be confusing for some. That last meeting we did approve a portion of or a component of this docket item, and then we're denying it. Could you speak to that?
Yeah, and Missy and Stephen can jump in at any time as well. But generally speaking, if this moves forward to City Council with a denial recommendation and City Council were to deny it, I don't believe the subdivision could go forward because the subdivision is what is driving the amendment to the conditional use to expand the site.
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit as well. This has to be considered in conjunction with the subdivision because the proposal is really to change the formal boundaries of the school to include this proposed parking lot area. And so originally these two applications, the subdivision and the zoning docket, were on the same schedule for February 13th. Because of the way subdivision deadlines work under state law, we were on deadline on the previous application or the subdivision application at the previous meeting. We weren't on deadline on this application and we didn't have enough staff to do both. So we basically wrote the subdivision up for approval with the approval being contingent on the approval of this application. So if this is approved, then the subdivision is approved as well. If this is denied, then the subdivision self-destructs basically based on that. But it really was based on timeline and deadlines more than anything else.
And was the subdivision, remind me, was the staff recommendation on the subdivision to be approved?
Yeah, the staff recommendation was for approval. The staff had not yet done its review of this application and importantly hadn't really grappled with the master plan issue, which is kind of most fundamentally leading us towards the denial recommendation.
Thank you. Any other questions from any other commissioners? scrolling through to see. No, we're good. All right, thank you, everybody. We can move on to the next zoning docket, which is zoning docket 028-24. And I think our chair will come back on now.
I'm back.
Welcome.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. Zoning docket 2821 considers a request via City Council Motion M2165 to amend the comprehensive zoning ordinance to classify dormitory as a permitted use in the CBD1 core central business district. Currently, the use charts under Article 17, Section 17.3A do not permit dormitories in the CBD1 district, although the district does permit universities. The two adjacent districts, the CBD7 and the CBD2, do permit the use of dormitory. The CBD1 district is in close proximity to the CBD7 Bioscience District, which is occupied by governmental offices, several uses related to the health science industry, and other student housing owned by Tulane University. This text amendment could be a benefit for economic development, quality of life, and student life. Permitting dormitories in the CBD1 district will promote development of more uses related to this growing residential area and support the master plan goal of creating a vibrant 24-hour live live, work, play environment in the central business district.
Thank you so much. Commissioners, at this time, do you have any questions for staff? I don't think we have anyone present from the City Council to discuss zoning docket. Any questions for staff? Okay, there's no questions for staff. We'll continue on to zoning docket 2921.
Zoning docket 2921 is a request by City Council Motion M2169 to re-sign ordinance number 24654, zoning docket 7311, which granted under the former comprehensive zoning ordinance a conditional use to permit increases in height and floor area ratio and a non-accessory parking garage in the CBD3 Central Business District for the Hard Rock Hotel site at 1031, 1041 Canal Street and 110, 138 North Rampart Street. The site is about 40,532 square feet in size. The ordinance granted conditional use approval to a mixed-use structure that was originally contemplated as containing ground floor retail space, parking garage levels, and residential units on upper floors. The development was considered by the City Council in 2011 under the former comprehensive zoning ordinance. The ordinance authorizing the development permitted height and floor area ratio increases, as well as the use of a portion of the structure as a non-accessory parking garage. In 2016, the development plan had changed to include hotel units. The 2015 adoption of the current comprehensive zoning ordinance allowed the hotel use by right. So the change in use of several floors from residential to hotel was administratively approved by the City Planning Commission staff in 2016. The developer secured Hard Rock as a tenant, and the building became known as the Hard Rock Hotel. On October 12, 2019, as construction was ongoing, the structure collapsed, killing 3 people. The damage necessitated the closure of the surrounding streets for months, causing significant and sustained disruption to surrounding properties and requiring transit and other traffic to be rerouted. The structure was demolished in December 2020 and the site is now cleared. The City Council proposes that the conditional use ordinance be rescinded. The staff finds this to be appropriate as the proposal meets the standards of revocation of conditional use set forth in Article 4 of the CZO, in that several provisions of this ordinance are violated. Should the conditional use be rescinded, the property could be redeveloped as allowed under the property's CBD3 district zoning classification. Staff recommends approval of the rescission.
All right, thank you so much. At this time now, I don't think we don't have anyone present City Council wise. So Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff as it relates to this document, the zoning docket? If there are no questions, we will continue with the agenda to zoning docket 3021.
Zoning docket 03021 is a request for a conditional use to permit a minor motor vehicle repair shop and car wash in an HUMU historic urban neighborhood mixed use zoning district located in the Whitney neighborhood on the West Bank. The site is developed with a mid-century structure that was formerly used as an auto and tire repair shop, but the site has been vacant for several years. Due to the prolonged vacancy, the property has lost its legal non-conforming use status for the vehicle repair use. The applicant has requested a text amendment to the CZO to allow small motor vehicle repair shop and car wash to be allowed as a conditional use in the HUMU district. This text amendment, zoning docket 2421, was heard at the March 9th, 2021 City Planning Commission meeting. During that meeting, the staff recommended modified approval, allowing that a conditional use for a small motor vehicle repair shop is in keeping with the master plan, but finding that a car wash to be in conflict with the master plan designation for mixed use low future land use designation, which is generally consistent with the HUMU districts. At the time of this report's writing, the City Council has not yet made a determination on zoning docket 2421. This item is scheduled for the May 6th City Council meeting with a deadline of May 24th for action. The applicant has also yet to submit plans showing the full scope of the proposed project. And for this reason, staff is unable to analyze the potential impact or suitability of the proposed use for the subject site at this time. Therefore, staff recommend deferral of zoning docket 3021 until the May 25th, 2021 CPC meeting.
All right, thank you. At this time, commissioners, do you have any questions, or do we have a representative from Brothers Newton LLC present, or authorized representative? All right. There's no representative present. Commissioners, do you have any questions about this zoning docket? All right, we'll continue on to zoning docket 3121.
Zoning docket 3121 is a request for an amendment to ordinance 24687 MCS to permit the height of a wireless telecommunications tower to be increased from 65.5 feet in height to 73.5 feet in height in an HUMU historic urban neighborhood mixed use district. The subject address is 5354 Magazine Street and is the site of both the New Orleans Tennis Club and the Poydras Home Senior Living Community. This request seeks to amend the conditional use ordinance that pertains to the Poydras Home portion of the site. That ordinance allowed two separate land uses, one of which was to permit construction of a telecom tower that is the subject of today's request, and which is to increase the tower's height by 10 feet. The stated reason for the request is to provide improved cellular service coverage and emergency 911 coverage. The existing 63.5-foot tower was constructed in accordance with a previous zoning ordinance, comprehensive zoning ordinance, but this proposal will be reviewed under the current zoning regulations, which went into effect in 2015. The current regulations limit the height of wireless towers in the HUMU district to 65 feet, but also allow additional height to be authorized through the conditional use process upon finding that the additional height is needed for functionality or co-location purposes. Thus, the proposed 73.5-foot tall tower, while exceeding the normal height limit, may be authorized under this application. The subject telecommunications tower has been in place for over 20 years, and the proposed 10-foot increase in the tower's height is modest enough that it's not likely to result in any significant difference in how the tower appears from the surrounding neighborhood and beyond. Furthermore, even if this petition was for new construction of a tower, the site's future land use designation, which is mixed use medium density, supports development of this type. Thus, a 10-foot increase in the tower's current height is not inconsistent with the master plan, and therefore the staff recommends approval of zoning docket 3121, subject to 1 waiver and 16 provisos.
All right, thank you. At this time now, do we have a representative from the Porter's Home present or a authorized representative to speak on behalf of the zoning docket? Is there authorized representatives to speak on zoning docket 3121? Not, commissioners, do you have any questions for staff as it relates to this docket? All right, if there are no questions for staff, we'll continue to move on to zoning docket 3221.
Zoning docket 3221 is a request for an affordable housing plan development within a square that is split zoned as C1 general commercial and HURD2 historic urban 2-family residential. The 1.8 acre site is located at the intersection of Earhart Boulevard and Monroe Street in the Holly Grove neighborhood. The applicant proposes providing affordable housing by renovating 11 existing structures that contain between 2 and 3 units each, and constructing a large multifamily residence containing 20 dwelling units for a total of 43 residential units. The new multifamily structure would be built at the corner of Earhart Boulevard and Monroe Street. The applicant is seeking a use exception to allow a multifamily residential use, which is currently only allowed on floors above the ground floor commercial use in the C1 district, and that's only once a conditional use is obtained. The staff has not yet completed its review of the application. Therefore, the staff recommends deferral of zoning docket 3221 to the May 11th CPC meeting.
All right, thank you. At this time now, do we have a representative present for zoning docket 3221? All right, commissioners, do you have a question for staff as it relates to zoning docket 3221? There are no questions. We'll continue to move on to zoning docket 3321.
This is a request for an amendment to ordinance number 22390 MCS zoning docket 1607 to grant a conditional use to permit a wireless telecommunications tower and facility in an HURD1 historic urban 2-family residential district at the Fairgrounds Racetrack. The applicants are proposing to build another cell tower which will measure 90 feet in height adjacent to an existing 83-foot tower. This tower will service AT&T and provide additional coverage to the immediate surrounding neighborhood. Towers are limited to 65 feet in height in residential areas. However, additional height is allowed through the conditional use process when evidence is shown that additional coverage is necessary. With a need for more cell coverage in this area, which is primarily residential, staff finds the fairgrounds, a relatively active commercial site with multiple large-scale massings, is a suitable site for this type of cell tower. Utilizing the fairgrounds as a site for a cell tower with additional height will help make the demand away from other less suitable sites while still providing coverage in a primarily residential neighborhood. Therefore, staff is recommending approval of zoning docket 3321, subject to 6 provisos.
Thank you. At this time now, do we have a representative from Churchill Downs present or authorized representative to speak on behalf of this zoning docket? If there's no representative, commissioners, if you have a question for staff as it relates to the zoning docket, you can ask the question now. All right, if there are no questions, we'll continue to move on with our agenda to subdivision docket 3221.
Subdivision docket 3221 is a request to re-subdivide lots 10A and 11A into lots 10B and 11B located at 2621 Memorial Park Drive and 3421 Georgia Street in an SRD suburban single-family residential district. The proposed subdivision would reconfigure the 2 existing lots of record to face Georgia Street rather than Memorial Park Drive. Memorial Park Drive is a very narrow interior street lacking curbs or sidewalks and contains a ditch on the side of the street where the subject lots are located. The change in lot frontage would allow easier access to the properties along a wider street containing a curb. The re-subdivision request requires review by the City Planning Commission in accordance with Article 5, Section 5.1.8 of the subdivision regulations, which sets forth the Commission's general disinclination to approve lot frontage reversals if they will result in the rear yard abutting a side yard or a front yard opposite a required side yard condition. The request results in both scenarios. However, there is an exception under which that particular lot arrangement may be approved. The exception applies when the existing lot pattern within 500 feet on both sides of the proposed subdivision on each affected street contains development on which 50% or more lots have similar frontage. The street on which the proposed lots would front is only a block in length, containing a nominal number of properties on which to compare and analyze. In lieu of analyzing properties on just Georgia Street, a 500-foot radius around the lots was used, indicating there is a clear majority of lots that are oriented approximately north-south, the same orientation of the existing lots. The proposed change of lot orientation from north-south to east-west would be inconsistent with the overall lot pattern within this radius. Despite the proposed orientation of the lots being incongruent with general orientation of lots in the vicinity, the staff reviewed other factors when determining a recommendation for the request. The first factor is accessibility of Georgia Street versus Memorial Park Drive. Georgia Street is a more appropriate frontage because it already has a curb, and Memorial Park Drive contains a drainage ditch that could prevent access to the properties. Secondly, the structures along Georgia Street are already situated to also front Georgia Street, so the proposed lot pattern would be consistent with existing conditions. And while the reversal of lot frontage would technically create a scenario where the required front yards are opposite to the required side yard of the property directly across the street at 2700 Memorial Park Drive, that property uses its side yard as its front yard, negating any aesthetic issues resulting from the proposed reversal of lot frontage. Given the nuances of the subject property, the staff believes the request is acceptable and recommends tentative approval of the request, subject to 3 provisos.
All right, thank you. At this time now, is the applicant present for subdivision docket 3221, our representative?
Yes, hello?
Yes, Mr. Alexander?
Yes, at this time, we have no comment.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Alexander. At this time, commissioners, do you have a question for staff or for the applicant to be present? All right, if there are no questions, we'll continue on with the agenda to street name change 001.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Street name change 00121 is a request by Councilmember Nguyen to consider the renaming of Caffin Avenue in its entirety as Fats Domino Avenue. Caffin Avenue is approximately 1.6 miles in length with about 260 lots of record. Antoine Fats Domino was a native of New Orleans, an internationally known singer-songwriter, pianist, and pioneer of rock and roll music. He lived in the lower 9th Ward on Caffin Avenue for most of his career. The proposal meets most of the CPC's street renaming policy criteria, with an exception that the person being honored has not been deceased for 5 years. However, the City Planning Commission has indicated that it will not include that criteria in the next time it revises its administrative rules, policies, and procedures. Staff recommends that the Commission affirmatively waive criteria number 1 of the street renaming policy to allow a street to be named for a person who has not been deceased for over 5 years. The staff recommends approval of the requested street name change 00121 to rename the entirety of Caffin Avenue as Fats Domino Avenue. And with us today, we have a representative from Councilmember Nguyen's office who will speak a little bit more about the request.
Thank you so much, Paul. My name is Victoria Lewandowski, Economic Development Liaison for Councilwoman Nguyen. Councilwoman Nguyen wanted to kind of move affirmatively to change this name. I know we had conversations with the Street Renaming Commission, and even though Caffin is named after Charles Caffin, a plantation owner whose home still resides in the Lower Ninth Ward today, and actually most of the Lower Ninth Ward was his former plantation where he did own slaves, the Street Renaming Commission did not include it in their report. We did want to go ahead and move a little more quickly on this request, so we really appreciate CPC staff and the commission for taking this up. The family of Anton Fats Domino Jr. is also very excited about this. Prior to Councilwoman Nguyen taking office, former Councilmember Gray had honorarily named a portion of Caffin Avenue, Fats Domino Avenue. But as that happened, literally the last council meeting before transition and my council member's inauguration, that never took place. So we are doing more than an honorary renaming. We want to rename the full avenue for Fats Domino's rich legacy and history. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Commissioners, at this time, do you have a question for the representative or for the staff as it relates to the street? Are there any questions? All right, well, thank you so much for joining us. We'll continue to move on in the agenda to property disposition 00121.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Property disposition 00121 is consideration of the disposition of immovable property consisting of an undesignated lot, Lakelands Acres subdivision in the 3rd Municipal District, bounded by Reed Boulevard and Chef Menteur Highway. The municipal address is 10101 Chef Menteur Highway. The lot is undeveloped and within an SB2 suburban pedestrian-oriented corridor business district. The rectangular lot has approximately 57 feet of frontage on Chef Menteur Highway and 51 feet of frontage on Reed Boulevard for a total area of about 2,907 square feet. No city department has indicated a need for the lot, which has experienced some illegal dumping, and the disposition meets the criteria of the City Planning Commission for approval. So the staff recommends approval of the property disposition.
Thank you so much. Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff as it relates to property disposition 00121? If not, we'll move on to ratification of certification subdivision, new business. And I think that was recommended for deferral, Stephen, along with the other remaining items.
So the ratification is the subdivision ratification is recommended for approval, and then this, which is the following item, is recommended for deferral. Zoning dockets 34 through 3921 are recommended for deferral to May 11th.
All right, so that brings us to 2:15, and at this time, we've just made our way through our entire agenda. So commissioners, or to the general public, now will be the time to start sending in those public comments. And then the chair will entertain a motion for a 30-minute recess. And then at that point, we'll return and continue with the business of what's on the printed agenda.
Commissioner Lund, I move for that we move into a 30-minute recess in order to receive public comment on the docket items that have been presented. It's now 2:16, so that would have us recommence our meeting at 2:46.
All right. Is there a second to Commissioner Lund's motion?
Witry will second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Lund, seconded by Commissioner Witry for a 30-minute recess to reconvene at 2:46. Is there any further discussion on the motion? There's no further discussion on the motion. I'll call the question. Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Lund?
Yes.
Mobley?
Yes.
Commissioner Steeg?
Yes.
Stewart, yes. Commissioner Witry?
Yes.
All right. We'll see you guys back at 2:46 to reconvene.
Very good.
Huh? Say it again?
Okay, Commissioners, the time now is 2:47. If you're back, please turn your cameras on so that we can do a roll call and get started. In the meantime, as Paul and Stephen work to compile the emails, just keep a lookout on your emails to see, to read those public comments.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Stephen is still compiling them. We have about at least 74 comments so far, so he's just going to need a few more minutes to get those to us.
Okay.
I just sent them out, so they should be appearing in your email momentarily.
Okay. All right, thank you, Stephen. So at this time now at 2:48, so that we can come out of recess, I'm gonna get a roll call of the commissioners present so that we can start hearing those public comments. So I'll start with Commissioner Brown,
Present.
Commissioner Lund,
Present.
Commissioner Mobley,
Present.
Commissioner Steig,
Present.
Ms. Lewis present, and Commissioner Whittree.
Present.
All right, has any other commissioner joined us this time? All right. All right. If not, I'm still waiting to receive them.
We're in a dentist office?
I thought maybe rocket launch.
See, you just think big. You think big, Sue. I
have a 12-year-old. There might be things launching at any moment.
It's a big outdoor party for my birthday. Just kidding.
Okay, Stephen, I just received it. All right, so commissioners, you check your email. You should have the public comments now.
It appears that the comments for the school application all are mismarked as in opposition. They probably checked the wrong box because I'm reading through them and most of them are in support. So just note that when you're reading through them.
Okay, Paul, let's go ahead and get started with zoning docket 2621.
So there do not appear to be any comments for that zoning docket.
Okay, so commissioners, we did not receive any public comments for zoning docket 2621. Stephen, can you remind us of what staff recommendation was for that zoning docket?
Or the recommendation was to defer until May 25th.
All right. So we have a deferral to May 25th. Commissioners, is there any questions for staff as it relates to that, or a motion?
Move to defer until the May 25th City Planning Commission meeting.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Brown for deferral to May 25th. There's a second to that.
Steig seconds.
It's been seconded by Commissioner Steig. Is there any further discussion on the motion on the floor? If there's no further discussion on the motion on the floor, I'll call the question. Commissioner Brown.
Yes.
Commissioner Lund.
Yes.
Commissioner Mobley.
Yes.
Commissioner Steig.
Yes.
Stewart. Yes. Commissioner Witchery.
Yes.
All right. All right. The motion is carried for deferral to May 25th. We'll continue now on to zoning docket 2721. I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Witchery, and I will recuse myself, and I believe we have public comment for that. So Paul can start reading those into the record.
All right. The first public comment is from Bobby Miller, 2401 Humanity. I'm an instructor at Bethune Elementary. Several of our faculty must park far away from our school due to lack of parking spaces. Teachers must park several blocks away in unsafe areas and have become targets for criminal activity, such as attempted carjackings and cars being stolen. Crime has only gotten worse. Please approve the parking lot so that everyone can be safer and don't have to live in fear as they come to educate our children. Next, from Leah Andrews. I am an instructor at Bethune Elementary and ask you to approve the development of the much needed parking area on the institution's campus. Currently, there are 14 parking spots in the front area of the school, including only 2 handicap spots. Staff members must park under I-610, which is alongside the neighborhood, and walk a distance to retrieve our vehicles. The walk may sometimes get unsafe for us at dusk, dark due to limited street lighting. We've unfortunately had staff approached at gunpoint and even had cars stolen. Approving this parking area will allow the school to fence in the faculty staff parking, creating a safe environment for each of us. I humbly ask your support. Next, from Mona Lisa Spears Pierce. I have been an employee at Bethune Elementary School 2401 Humanities Street for several years. Parking has been horrendous at the school. We've had cars stolen, broken into, and employees approached by gunpoint. Even neighbors complain about staff members parking in front of their door, leaving them nowhere to park when they get off from work. I am most concerned about the safety of myself and colleagues walking from under the bridge I-610 to school. Having a parking lot for Bethune's teachers and staff would be only a great asset for not only the staff members, but for parents and neighbors as well. I hope that the Planning Commission would approve the parking lot for the safety of our hardworking, dedicated teachers, staff members, and our neighbors. Thank you in advance for your consideration. Next, from Trinice Scott, 6127 Perlita Street. I'm an instructor at Bethune Elementary and implore your approval of the development of the much needed faculty staff visitor parking area. Faculty staff of Bethune is made up of approximately 50+ people with access to limited parking. Currently, there are 14 parking spots in front of the school, which includes 2 handicap spots. It is generally difficult to locate or park in the neighborhood, forcing many staff to park under I-610 further into the neighborhood and walking a distance to retrieve their vehicles, often at dusk dark with limited lighting. It has become increasingly burdensome as many of us are forced to leave the school earlier than intended, preventing us from completing necessary work to afford our students the needed time, attention, and dedication we strive to present. Unfortunately, there has been reported occurrences of attempted carjackings, staff followed, and cars broken into. Due to these circumstances, our principal, Mrs. Mary Haynes Smith, has put procedures into place to help ensure we are safe. But there's always more that can be done. Improving this parking will allow the school to fence in the faculty staff parking, creating a safe environment for each of us. We'll also free up street traffic and allow neighbors to access to maneuver to and from their homes with greater ease. I humbly ask for your support of the approval. Next, from Linda Fitch, 2009 Art Street. I believe that a designated space for parking would be helpful for the safety of everyone. With a parking space, people will not have to park 2 or 3 blocks from the school. Some even have to park around the corner, and that is real dangerous. Next from Antoinette Bossier. The acquisition of the property at 3425 West St. Roch, zoning docket 2721, will enhance safety and security of the entire Bethune Elementary School family and neighborhood. The West St. Roch Street presently allows for two-way driving and parking on both sides of the street. Safety issues and traffic congestion are the results. Development of the additional off-street parking spaces are needed to arrest and alleviate these situations. I ask that the commission approve the parking area. Next from Cassandra Alexis, 3322 Calhoun Street. I'm an educator parent at Bethune Elementary and asking you to approve the development of the much needed parking area on the institution's footprint. Just this past November, I was almost carjacked. Being a female, I was very frightened. Because of the limited parking spaces, we are forced to park under I-610, where several cars have been broken into and stolen. Crime has only gotten worse, but approving this parking lot will protect the vehicles from being broken into, stolen, or carjacked. Approving this parking area will allow the school to fence in faculty, staff parking, creating a safe environment for each of us. I ask for your support in approving this much-needed parking lot. Next from Val Marshall. I am an instructor at Bethune Elementary and ask you to approve the development of the much-needed parking area on the institution's footprint. Currently, there are 14 parking spots on the front area of the school that includes 2 handicap spots. I am curious as to why this recently constructed state-of-the-art education facility, which preceded the Alexander Avery facility, did not include parking for faculty and staff, just a quandary. The staff is made up of approximately 50 people, all forced to park under I-610 along the neighborhood in a walking distance to retrieve their vehicles, sometimes at dusk, dark, limited lighting. We've had staff approached at gunpoint, even cars stolen. Approving this parking area allow the school to fence in faculty, staff parking, ameliorating the quandary of our school community members' safety, and we have had to discontinue aftercare activities essential for our working families. I humbly ask for your support. Next, there appear to be 2 duplicate comments from Cassandra Alexis and Mona Lisa Spears. From Leslie Garibaldi, 5518 Marigny Street. As a member of the board of directors, I understand the essential importance to approve the needed parking area for Bethune Elementary. Faculty, staff, and parents are currently parking in unsafe areas due to limited parking capacity at the school. This is subjecting them to possible physical and bodily harm. Again, approving this parking lot close to the school is vital to creating a safe environment for faculty, staff, and parents. Please approve the parking area. Next, from Jacqueline P. Bermudez, 7511 Ferret Street. To whom it may concern, I'm a parent at Mary McLeod Bethune Elementary Charter School. I am asking for your help and support. At my child's school, we have had to stop before and after care because of safety. We had staff and parents approached at gunpoint, even cars stolen. Because of the small amount of parking, parents and staff have to park under I-610 along the neighborhood and a walking distance to retrieve their vehicles, sometimes at dusk, dark, with limited lighting. So I have to live, work, and bring my child to school. And when I get there, most of the time, I have to park blocks away, walking in unattended, unsafe areas, many falling victims to crime, carjackings, etc. Approving a safe area close to school may prevent these misfortunes. Please approve the parking area. Next, from Sharice Watson, 805 Morningside Drive. I'm a teacher at Bethune Elementary and ask you to approve the development of the much needed parking area on the institution's footprint. Currently, there are 14 parking spots on the front area of the school that includes 2 handicap spots. The staff is made up of approximately 50 people, all forced to park under I-610 along the neighborhood and walking a distance to retrieve their vehicles, sometimes at dusk, dark, with limited lighting. We've had staff approached at gunpoint, even cars stolen. Approving this parking area will allow the school to fence in faculty, staff parking, creating a safe environment for each of us. I humbly ask your support. Next, from Sharice Walker, 3430 Mansfield Avenue. We humbly ask your support of this parking area closely connected to the school facility. When attending school events and parent meetings, I have to seek parking on side streets or underneath I-610. Crime has gotten worse in this area. Approving this area will protect vehicles from being broken into, stolen, or carjacked, and make it easier for parents such as myself to visit the school. Next from Tiffany Simpson, 520 John St. Laplace in Laplace. With the constant burglaries and attempted burglaries at the school, Bethune Elementary, teachers need a place to park their vehicles and know that drivers cannot just come down the street and cause damage to others' vehicles. It would help all the staff in reference to this. Please consider allowing 3525 St. Roch for the school to have that accessibility. Next from Ingrid Rachel, 4625 Spain Street. I'm an educator at Mary McLeod Bethune Elementary and ask that you approve the development of a secure parking area on the institution's footprint. Currently, there are only 14 parking spots on the front area of the school, including 2 handicap spots. The staff is made up of approximately 50 people, all forced to park under I-610 along the neighborhood and walking a distance to retrieve their vehicles, sometimes at dusk dark with limited lighting. We have had several incidents to occur, which include a staff member being approached at gunpoint and car thefts. Approval of this parking lot will allow the school to fence in faculty staff parking, creating a safe and secure environment for each of us. I humbly ask your support. Next from Catherine Ellis, 4835 Galahad Drive. I am a staff member at Bethune Elementary and ask that you approve the development of much needed parking area for our school. There are not enough parking spaces for the staff of this fine institution that prides itself in excellence. Staff members have to park in the neighborhood and walk back to the building in an unsafe neighborhood. Several of us have experienced attempted car theft and car burglary of our vehicles, not to mention stray dogs. I think that the development of a parking lot will help us, Bethune Elementary, tremendously. Any help that you can give to ensure this project happens, we will greatly appreciate it. Next from Mary Haynes Smith, 5800 Cartier. Good afternoon, I am Mary C. Haynes Smith, Principal CEO of Bethune Elementary Charter School. For almost 6 years, I have watched our parents and staff struggle with securing parking spots at Bethune located in the Bradley building. I have watched students maneuver through unusual heavy traffic to get to their parents' cars. My staff must park down the street or around the corner because there are only 14 spots. It's not safe. There have been car break-ins, armed robberies, and on two occasions, possible carjacking. It has been hard to hear the neighbors complain about their parking spots daily or the traffic jams that are created because of the lack of parking. Please consider our dilemma and help us. Next from Kiara Simmons, 2424 Tulane Avenue. I'm an instructor at Bethune Elementary and ask that you approve the development of the much needed parking area on the institution's footprint. Currently, there are 14 parking spots on the front area of the school that includes 2 handicap spots. The staff is made up of approximately 50 people, all forced to park under I-610 along the neighborhood and walking a distance to retrieve their vehicles, sometimes at dusk dark with limited lighting. We've had staff approached at gunpoint, even cars stolen. Approving this parking area will allow the school to fence in faculty staff parking, creating a safe environment for each of us. I humbly ask your support. Next from David Bocage, 4662 Mirabeau Avenue. As a member of the board of directors, I hear firsthand the challenges of faculty, staff, and parents visiting the school. Often, many have had to park blocks away, walking in unattended, unsafe areas, many falling victims to crime, carjackings, etc. Proving a safe area close to school may prevent these misfortunes. Please approve the parking area. Next from Channing Cornelius, 2401 Humanity. This area is much needed space for the Bethune Elementary community. It will provide a much needed safe parking area for the staff and families of the school. It saddens me to hear of the number of unsafe situations my coworkers, particularly female, have encountered this school year just coming to do their jobs and serve their students. Next from Christine Slack, 2401 Humanity. I'm in opposition of the desired parking space due to several failed attempts of criminal activity. We are seeking a safe environment area to park. Next from Frank Williams, 2401 Humanity. My name is Frank Williams and I currently serve as chairman of Mary McLeod Bethune Elementary Charter School, Stewart R. Bradley site. I humbly request that the commission approve the development of the much needed parking area due to the following. The school has been inundated with complaints from community members and parents concerning extreme traffic congestion during the morning and afternoon. Currently, there are 14 parking spots on the front area of the school that includes 2 handicap spots. However, the original school plans called for 59 spaces, so consequently, staff and parents are forced to park under I-610 and must walk a distance to retrieve their vehicles, sometimes at dusk dark with very poor lighting conditions. We've had staff approached at gunpoint, even cars have been stolen. The school has a very robust parental engagement program. However, a number of parents have expressed their reluctance to attend and participate in after-school functions due to safety issues and parking conditions. The development of the additional parking spaces does not limit the community's enjoyment and access to the park because it's only a small section has been proposed for parking. Next, from Tracy Bowdy, 6216 Paris Avenue. I'm an instructor at Bethune Elementary and ask that you approve the development of the much needed parking area on the institution's footprint. Currently, there are 14 parking spots on the front area of the school that include 2 handicap spots. Staff is made up of approximately 50 people, all forced to park under I-610 along the neighborhood and walking a distance to retrieve their vehicles, sometimes at dusk dark with limited lighting. We've had staff approached at gunpoint, even cars stolen. Approving this parking area will allow the school to fence in faculty staff parking, creating a safe environment for each of us. I humbly ask your support. Next, from Netter 26. Every time I visit my son's school, I have to park under the interstate and walk to the school. My vehicle was even broken into. I think a parking lot will be a great benefit to the parents as well as the staff members at the school. Bethune is the only school without off-street parking, and it's a great inconvenience. Next, from Linda Fitch, 2009 Art Street. It would be for the safety of staff members as well as for the children. Next, from Chandra Border. The parking lot is needed for the faculty and families at Bethune Elementary School. Off-street parking is becoming dangerous due to the recent criminal activity taking place in the surrounding neighborhood. I'm afraid to park on the street because it was reported to me that someone made an attempt to break in my car. I fear what may have happened if I had walked on the scene. The parking lot may provide a safe space for parents and staff to park. Next, from Tanya Foltz, 4863 Feliciana Drive. I'm in opposition to the application. The faculty and staff of Bethune Elementary would like this land to provide parking for the school. There is not enough parking on the street and many cars have been broken into, and one of our faculty members also got carjacked. Please allow our school this opportunity to have faculty and staff with the parking area for our safety, as well as to deter vandalism of our vehicles. Thank you so much for being a council member representing the well-being of the citizens of our great city. Next, from Olivia Joseph, 3521 West St. Roch. It is necessary for teachers at Bethune Elementary to have safe parking arrangements as the neighborhood can be unsafe. The parking lot would certainly help with this issue. Next, from Roland Major, 104 Ocelot Drive. I have worked at Bethune Elementary for 3 years now, and it's very clear we have trouble with parking. Whether it's for parents or staff, due to the lack of parking, we are forced to park along the sides of streets, which create numerous issues. It's very difficult for traffic to flow easily, which is why there are traffic jams. It is an inconvenience to the neighbors. It is to the point where they are frustrated and do not want us to park by their homes. Since there is no parking, we have to park down the street from the school, which has led to many car break-ins. We are very concerned about this issue. A teacher's car is broken into almost every week. This parking lot will benefit the school tremendously. Next, from Century Vernon. I am a math educator at Bethune Elementary and ask that you approve the development of the much needed parking area on the institution's footprint. Currently, there are 14 parking spots on the front area of the school that includes 2 handicap spots. The staff is made up of approximately 50 people, all forced to park under I-610 along the neighborhood and walking a distance to retrieve their vehicles, sometimes at dusk dark with limited lighting. We've had staff approached at gunpoint, even cars stolen. Approving this parking area will allow the school to fence in faculty staff parking, creating a safe environment for each of us. I humbly ask your support. Next, from Kenyel Marsh. Hi, I am a teacher at Mary McLeod Bethune Elementary. I want to oppose the rejection of stopping the development and construction of the school parking lot. I believe the construction should move forward and continue. With the parking lot, the Bethune Elementary faculty, staff, and parents, guardians will have a sense of safety and belongingness. Currently, we're supposed to park on the street under I-610 in front of surrounding neighbors' houses or even blocks away from the school, which causes us to have to walk a distance to get inside of the school building. Should also be noted that there's been several car break-ins in the area, and some of our faculty staff have been followed and watched in an effort to steal their cars and or harm them physically. This has caused a lot of us to catch rides with one another to rush and get our cars untouched. The large amount of unsafe circumstances and events has even led to the school having to get a police detail outside of the school building during our arrivals and dismissals. The police detail ensures that we get in and out of the building safely. With the parking lot, we would lower the risk of unsafe matters like car break-ins and carjackings. We would be able to lower the chances of us struggling to find the good spots and second guessing our parking spot because of the fear of someone harming us or taking our cars. This could also lower the chances of our cars. And the rest of that seems to be cut off. Next, from Jamar Alexander, 2401 Humanity. Parking lot is much needed for our school for various reasons. The reasons include, but are not limited to, the safety of our parents, faculty, and staff and students. It is also needed to ensure that we more accurately accommodate the special needs of population in our community. Next, from Deidre Friels, 5387 Charlotte Drive. As a faculty member of Bethune Elementary, it is imperative that we have parking. In the past few months, many of our faculty and staff have been met at the school by young males trying to steal their cars. Due to not having parking, we are forced to park under the bridge, around the corner, and blocks away from school. This gives predators many opportunities to steal, attack, or seriously harm our faculty and staff. This would also free up parking in front of residents' homes in the area. Please consider our parking area at Bethune Elementary School. Next, from Nona F. Brown, 2637 AP Turo Avenue. I'm in opposition of this application because there is a great need for this parking lot, especially since there were 2 attempted carjackings of our staff members. Next, from Joy Butler, 2437 Johnville Street. I'm an instructor at Bethune Elementary and ask you to approve the development of the much needed parking area on the institution's footprint. Currently, there are 14 parking spots on the front area of the school that includes 2 handicap spots. The staff is made up of approximately 50 people, all forced to park under I-610 along the neighborhood and walking a distance to retrieve their vehicles, sometimes at dusk dark with limited lighting. We've had staff approached at gunpoint, even cars stolen. Approving this parking area will allow the school to fence in faculty staff parking, creating a safe environment for each of us. We humbly ask you for your support. Next, from Eliza Mulder, 4410 Allen Street. I would like a parking area next to the school for safety reasons and convenience. Next, from Marilyn Grant, 13011 Ashland Drive. The parking in Bethune is a problem for neighbors, students, parents, and teachers. Due to insufficient parking in the area, we fear a severe accident is going to occur. With parents having to park on both sides of the street and students having to cross in between cars creates an unsafe environment. The streets are deplorable and have several potholes. On rainy days, they are filled with water, leaving very little or no place to park on a rainy day. Next, from Vicki Davenport, 12340 North Lake Carmel Drive. I have always found it strange why educators have always been treated as not worthy of some of the basic professional amenities, always severely underpaid, considering the importance of the job of educating the population, and now rejecting an opportunity to provide a better monitored, therefore safer area for school employees to park. Really? The fact that the school paid for private security to roam surrounding streets to a rash of unlawful attempts targeting school personnel help change your minds. Next, from Kenny Foltz, 4863 Feliciana Drive. Please allow Bethune Elementary School the opportunity to place parking for the faculty and staff of the school. They have had many car break-ins and one of the teachers almost got carjacked. Please approve them to acquire this property. Thank you in advance. Next, from Inger Beauchamp, 1209 Lower Line. Due to the unsafe neighborhood and recent rash of car break-ins and carjackings, I am quite concerned for the safety of our children and staff. Next, from Sheila Brown, 8539 Spruce Street. I'm in opposition of this application because it will provide a safe space for local teachers to park safely. Carjacking women is steadily climbing. Next, from Courtney Gonsolin, Parking lot is needed at the school. It is dangerous for all of us who park along the street with the rise in car thefts and burglaries. Next from Nicole Franklin, 2421 Della Chase. I'm an instructor at Bethune Elementary and ask that you to approve the development of much needed parking area on the institution's footprint. Currently, there are 14 parking spots on the front area of the school that includes 2 handicap spots. The staff is made up of approximately 50 people, all forced to park under I-610 along the neighborhood and walking a distance to retrieve their vehicles, sometimes at dusk dark with limited lighting. We've had staff approach at gunpoint, even cars stolen. Approving this parking area will allow the school to fence in faculty staff parking, creating a safe environment for each of us. I humbly ask your support. Thank you. Next from Terry Marshall, 104 Portage Place. Please make the site available for our staff to park safely and conveniently. Every day we have bags, supplies, etc. to carry in and out of the school building. We have already been the victims of multiple break-ins as well as multiple attempted carjackings. The parking will provide an element of safety and security that we don't currently have. It would also be a time saver because we make multiple trips to and from our cars when we can't carry everything with one trip. Our staff consists of 50+ employees, so we currently park at least 1 to 2 blocks away, including the spaces that are parallel to the park site in question. When we have school functions, the parents arrive early, which means we're parked even farther away from the school building. We need the space. Sincerely, Mrs. T. Marshall. Next from Demetric Mercadel. As a 3417 Allen Street. As a 48-year resident in Gentilly, Sugar Hill, in the neighborhood connected to Bethune Elementary School, we humbly ask your support to allow the school use of the land as parking. As crime continues to escalate, having a secure parking area for faculty, staff, and parents would certainly be in the best interest of our team and all that support our students. Unfortunately, those visiting Bethune must scramble for spots in the neighborhood, along the perimeter and underneath I-610, truly a dark and dangerous spot for staff dedicated to their jobs, staying overtime and leaving when the streets are deserted. We beg you to approve this request. Next from Rachel Oyola, 415 Fern Street. The parking lot will provide a level of safety that is badly needed. Multiple teachers have been carjacked or had it attempted while parked on the neighborhood streets. In addition, it would free up street parking for residents. Next from Jessica Lozano, 1914 Esplanade. Good afternoon. I'm a special education talented theater teacher at Bethune Elementary and ask you to approve the development of the much needed parking area on the institution's footprint. Currently, there are 14 parking spots on the front area of the school that includes 2 handicap spots. Staff is made up of approximately 50 people, all forced to park under I-610 along the neighborhood and walking a distance to retrieve their vehicles, sometimes at dusk dark with limited lighting. We've had staff approached at gunpoint, even cars stolen. Approving this parking area will allow the school to fence in faculty staff parking, creating a safe environment for each of us. I humbly ask your support. We are a wonderful school and it's important to the neighbors to have their streets back. With your help, we will be able to walk safely to our cars. I cannot express the new stress of just getting into the building and back to our car this year. The teachers deserve a small parking lot and neighbors deserve easier access to their home. Next from Kim Durancelet. I'm an employee at Bethune Elementary. I've enjoyed working at the new site. However, for some reason, this year has been different. We have had many incidents where I feel I'm not safe leaving the school building. It appears that teachers and employees from our school have been targeted by young men who are attempting to hijack us or our vehicles. I have personally experienced this 3 times. One particular time when leaving a car had pulled up next to me. An employee parked on the corner and was pulling at the car doors. Even though I was less than 2 car lengths from them, they did not stop. Another time I was leaving a car down the street, came down the street very fast and got behind mine as if they were going to hit my car. The only thing that stopped this was I was in the process of waving to a neighbor who was outside the house, so the car sped around me. It is very important that we are able to make the park into a parking lot. This is increasingly becoming unsafe for faculty that is mostly comprised of women. We feel very vulnerable and leave in pairs or groups. We now have security in the afternoon, but he can't see everything. Please Reconsider and allow the lot at 3425 West St. Roch Avenue to be used as a parking lot. New Orleans does not need a statistic of a teacher being harmed after working to help our community. Next, from Dominique Smith, 1512 Riviera Avenue. I'm an instructor at Bethune Elementary and ask that you approve the development of the much-needed parking area on the institution's footprint. Currently, there are 14 spots on the front area of the school that includes 2 handicap spots. The staff is made up of approximately 50 people, all forced to park under I-610 along the neighborhood and walking a distance to retrieve their vehicles, sometimes at dusk dark with limited lighting. We've had staff approached at gunpoint, even cars stolen. I fear walking from my car to the building every morning and afternoon. Improving this parking area will allow the school to fence faculty staff parking, creating a safe environment for each of us. I humbly ask for your support. Next, from Samuel Hendricks, Booney Street. I support the proposal for off-street parking for the employees of Bethune Elementary. I support this proposal because off-street parking will decrease the amount of cars parking on Humanity and St. Roch. With less traffic congestion, there is more time for arrivals and dismissal procedures. In addition, the proposal increases the safety of students and teachers. Unfortunately, while navigating through the uncertainties of COVID-19, the employees of Bethune have experienced several attempted car burglaries. The parking lot would allow monitoring and video surveillance, which increases the safety and security of the educational institution. Protection of everyone must be a first priority. Bethune is a great institution where teachers and students desire to feel safe while instructing and learning. It is our hope that the council does not reject this proposal. However, consider the measures of safety. There is no one method that will guarantee absolute security, but methods can be put in place that will sustain the well-being of all. Ultimately, a vote against this proposal for off-street parking is a vote that does not consider the safety of teachers and students. Thank you. Next, from Donyette Love. I'm in support of the much-needed parking lot at 3425 West St. Roch Avenue. We have had several cars be broken into and several attempted carjackings, and has gotten to the point that I fear for my going to my car alone. Please approve this much-needed parking lot to provide the staff with much-needed security and peace of mind required to report to work and provide the quality service that students deserve. Next, from Lynette Henry, 2412 Wisteria Street. I'm an educator at Mary Bethune Elementary School. The school is in need of a parking lot. I come to school early in the morning to prepare for instructions. I don't feel safe. Staff members have been approached by individuals for their vehicles. I would feel much safer if I was able to park in an enclosed location. Please approve the development of a much needed parking area for our school. Next, from Tammy Scott, 1481 Sears Street. Teachers need a safe place to park. Next, from Tizona Watts, to whom it may concern, we are in desperate need of parking spaces at Mary McLeod Bethune Charter School. On many occasions, we arrive to school very early and have nowhere to park. It is very unsafe to park blocks away from the front door. We had numerous car break-ins and a failed carjacking. The teacher was parked away from the school and was walking to the front entrance when she was approached by 3 or 4 males in a fast-moving car towards her. Lucky we had started a buddy system whereby we call each other when arriving to the building. We were on the lookout for this teacher when this unknown car pulled up next to her. Once they saw us standing in wait for her and watching them and their actions, they pulled off quickly. We have had to hire morning security to wait and watch. We need to be able to park safely and leave work early. We need adequate parking for all staff members, not only a few who are lucky enough to arrive extremely early and get a safe place to park. Next, from Gilda Porter, 12930 Parlange Court. As a teacher at Bethune Elementary, it has been a struggle to find somewhere to park each day. We have to park down the street where it has become dangerous. We have had people approached at gunpoint. We have people whose cars were broken in. We have had cars that were hit on the street. We've had to park on muddy streets and we're forced to roll our rolling carts, book bags through water and mud. If the school gets this site, we will have it fenced in, safe environment in which to park and walk in. Next, from Tyrone St. Jr. My car was hit and also broken into in front of Bethune Elementary where I teach young children. I enjoy working at Bethune, but we need a safe place to park our cars. Next from Cheryl Winslow, 2411 Humanity. I'm handicapped and I teach at Bethune School. As a teacher, I often come to school with supplies, books, and materials to teach lessons to my students. I struggle with finding parking in the neighborhood. I fell a few times struggling with my rolling bag. The neighborhood is not safe. Several employees were robbed in daylight. Having a parking lot would allow teachers to feel safe without having to walk blocks to find somewhere to park. I am asking you to please allow the staff to have a parking lot closer to the school campus. Thank you. And that seems to be the last comment.
Paul, thank you so much for reading all of those. We really do appreciate you very, very much. Mr. Hill, I believe that if you have anything to add, you have 2 minutes to respond. It seems like overwhelmingly all of the 64 comments, I think that they were in support of the application.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that some of the folks who wrote in said they were in opposition to the application. I think they were saying they were in opposition to the staff's recommendation. So just to clarify that, but no further comments. Thank you. Thank you so much, Paul, for reading all this.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for Graham or Emily?
As Commissioner Lunn, I have a question first for Graham. Could you talk to me about who is in charge right now of the stormwater maintenance, which does not appear to be functioning well if there is a plan, and who would be in charge after if this was approved?
Yes, so there's really no one in charge of stormwater management at the current time. As I mentioned, when the school was built, I guess it started construction in 2013. They did tie in. Yeah, essentially, they're treating all of the stormwater on the lot of record for the school, but part of what we're doing here is expanding that lot of record with the subdivision. So we are proposing that the portion of the lot that's being re-subdivided will be treated and stormwater will be conveyed through the design that we've proposed for that portion of it.
Is it passive, the management of it? It's all passive?
It is, yeah. It is. It's all gravity fed. There are no pumps. There are no mechanical conveyance devices. It's essentially designed and graded so that all of the slopes and the flows work with the existing catch basins and manholes that are in place on the school site now. So it's just connecting those to what's there.
It sounds like there's currently definitely a problem with retention, water retention during heavy rains. So do you have any idea of the degree to which this might improve that situation?
Yeah, I think it's going to make a substantial improvement. The design of the footprint of the parking lot is kind of right in the spot right now where it's quite muddy and lower. And so the improvements that are going to be made there will direct the water essentially to the parking spots, which are going to be built with True Grid, which is the permeable PVC product with the gravel inside of it. And the roadway in the middle is going to slope to either of those sides. So there'll be stormwater retention on both edges of the new parking lot.
Okay, so each parking space is pervious. Is it pervious?
Yeah, except for the 2 ADA spots. Those can't be like-code.
Okay, so it definitely sounds like it should improve the situation. And that, from what I'm reading of the purpose of open space, that is one of the priority purposes, goals to attain with open space. And what percentage of that parkland would become a part of the school? About?
Yeah, so that's a good question. The subdivision still preserves basically the lot of record now that is known as Union Park. What's being proposed is roughly 18 to 19% of that would be taken up by the new improvements for the parking lot. So there is, however, an additional portion of the re-subdivision proposal that is going to be unimproved, and so that will remain park space. So out of the current footprint of what's designated as the parkland open space, it's about 18 to 19%.
All right, so about 80+% of the original dedicated, or it was a gift, right, from the city to the school, would remain as park space, including the playground area.
Yeah, that's correct. And there's also a tennis court that is not in great condition, but it's serviceable, and so that's being preserved as well. So there's a tot lot, play structure, and then the tennis court, and then the as I said, the large open field portion of the park as well.
Okay, and are there any other features that will help with either the, well, stormwater management primarily and landscaping aesthetics?
Yeah, there's going to be, we have Sweet Bay magnolia trees, 6 of them that are within the parking lot to provide shade, so that, the parking is going to be shaded. It's also sitting just north of a 3-story building, so it's naturally going to be shaded by the building itself. So, I think that'll help with the heat island effect. And yeah, the other thing I would say is of note relative to stormwater management is just the preservation of the entire root system around that mature live oak there. As we all know, the root systems are very lateral, and so it's there's a big portion of the project. It would have been very easy just to turn right in, but we sort of changed the geometry of that to preserve that entire drip line of the tree for passive stormwater management as well.
Right. I'd like to let you know that I really do appreciate the degree to which Concordia dedicated time, and that apparently the school agreed to do which must add costs to the whole project, to consider all of this, and but how important it is, especially since it's an area that retains water and is this could solve that major problem. I also saw in the notes that I think the staff asked you about lighting, changes to the plan for lighting, so that it was not a safety issue at night. Have changes been made?
Yes. So that is currently in the design stage. We have not brought this project out for public bidding yet, but the current design documents have the lighting as an alternate. So that's all based on the funding that's available for the project, but it is in the design right now as an alternate.
But it would depend upon funding.
Yeah, because right now, just with the market conditions, we have to apply contingencies to the budget. We were given, $250,000 as a round number for this project. And so with all the landscaping that's required, as well as the, the subsurface trenching, the drainage, there's just a lot of, it's not as simple as, your traditional parking lot where you just pave it. This is an active stormwater retention system. And so, we felt as though those features, as well as the shade trees, the landscaping, just making it attractive for the community as well, those were more important than the lighting, given that in particular, the building itself is close to the parking lot. So there will be lighting within the building, and the school has the ability to make those improvements in the future. It'd be very easy to put some wall mounted lights. And so that's what we have in the design is, wall mounted lights that cast light down onto the parking lot area, but do it at such an angle that it doesn't disturb the neighbors around the park.
Okay, great. Thank you. I think that was all the questions that I had for you. And I thank you, Graham. I do have a couple of questions for Emily. Emily, I wanted to ask about, 1 second here, I have to read my own notes. Yikes. Oh, actually, this is for Graham. There would be public access, public use for people who are using the park, right, to be able to use those parking spaces.
Yes, that's correct. And I should have pointed that out as well. A couple of the comments that were submitted mentioned fencing in the parking lot. That is not the intent of the project. There's no fencing included in the design right now. So the idea is that it would be joint use with the school and with people using the park on the weekends and evenings.
Okay, thank you. And Emily, question I had was about, there's a statement in the staff report that expansion of the school site itself would also open the possibility of increased floor area ratios for the school. Is that, could you talk a little bit about that concern? Because it doesn't really look like, other than adding another floor, that there would be really a possibility for increased area ratio.
Yeah, happy to discuss. essentially what I was saying in the staff report is through the expansion of the school site, absorbing this piece of land through the subdivision process, the school, the request does not, they don't need to go through the conditional use to request to have the parking lot. That's something that can be done by right. And the fear was, if plans changed at any point in the future and the school wanted to build another building or add on to the existing building, that could increase the gross floor area and just kind of be a bit more intensive for the area, as well as expanding onto the OSN zoned site. So that was kind of the staff's concern from that perspective. We're not looking today at, you're not looking today at whether to approve the parking lot per se. It's really approving the joining of this site and the use of this site as part of the school campus. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. So this is one of the consequences. It opens up that possibility of a more intensive use, right? Exactly. Other question is, it is noting there that if this is approved, the city council will determine the interpretation of the covenants. And could you explain that to me? Because I'm not sure that.
So a few years ago, I think this was in 2015, there was an exchange of properties between Orleans Parish School Board and the city. And as agreed with the exchange, the Orleans Parish School Board agreed to allow for community access to those green spaces. That includes Union Park and then Fox Playground, which is not part of this request. And the conditions that are in place are associated with the property disposition. It's something that City Council would have to amend if they don't think this is consistent. They may view this as consistent based on what Graham is saying. The community will have access to the parking lot outside of school hours, so there may be no need for an amendment to those conditions. But staff just wanted to make you all aware that there were conditions attached to the property disposition that may cause conflict.
They want to weigh in on based on this new plan. Okay, and so my understanding, this is not just for you, Emily, but I guess I'm saying in general, is that we're supposed to consider with the conditional use the impact in general for the community. Is it of greater positive impact? And given the comments on safety concerns that, with health, safety, and welfare being top public service concerns, this one screams that there is a safety issue that this could address. While there's a trade-off with as part of the parkland, I think the biggest thing that I hear is that it changes the agreement that was made when the property was disposed of or contributed to the school. And I understand that, but hearing that it's 20% of it, that it increases the benefits in terms of stormwater management for a portion of property that is not being used for open space in an active way, and that cars are driving across it and there's water being retained upon it, it seems like a very, very gross improvement of this property. So that's why I wanted to ask, I wanted to see if I was understanding it properly. And after asking questions, I do feel very much that it's an improvement. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Are there any other questions from commissioners, or are you all ready to present a motion?
I'm ready to present a motion, if I may.
Please, Commissioner Brown.
I move to, although I understand the staff's constraints with the future land use map in the master plan, there also is an overreaching goal here, which Commissioner Lund mentioned, of the health, safety, and welfare of the community, which I believe this mentions, as well as our stormwater management goals, and the fact that this is taking up 18 to 20% of the green space on the maps. I feel that this is compelling enough to go against the staff's recommendation and approve the application with the provisos attached, if there are any. I don't think there. Anyway, that's my motion.
There were a number of provisos and amendments to provisos that staff would recommend.
I've got it back up now. So I see that, yes, with all of those in place.
Is there a second for Commissioner Brown's motion.
Commissioner Lund, second.
Commissioner Lund seconds.
I have one question quick for staff. You go ahead.
Could we, I
Before
think
we
we
vote.
need to vote. Missy?
She said she had one more question. We have a
Okay.
second, so she can go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Kathleen.
Just have
And
a-
Missy?
With regard to the lighting, since there's still an issue about that, is that addressed in any of the provisos? Is there a requirement for increasing light?
There is a proviso that was attached to the original conditional use ordinance. It's proviso number 9 that says the developer shall submit a lighting plan for the campus, including but not limited to all parking areas and play areas located on the campus, shall not be directed towards adjacent residential uses. And Stephen and Missy can correct me, but in amending this conditional use, if it is granted by City Council, all of these provisos from the original ordinance and what City Council adopts as part of the new ordinance would have to stay in effect. So I think we would have to review the final plans and they would have to show lighting in the parking area as well.
Alrighty, thank you. Okay, that's all.
We'll take it to a vote. Commissioner Mobley?
Yes.
Commissioner Lund?
Wait 1 second, I have to ask you something.
Commissioner Stee?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Witry is also going to agree. And the motion passes. It is going against staff approval from denial, but is being approved with condition to the provisos as well. Docket, we're moving on to the next zoning docket. And Chair Stewart, I believe, will join us back.
All right, thank you. All right, and we'll be moving on to zoning docket 2921.
I think you meant, did you say zoning docket 28 or 29?
I said 2921.
All right, I think we have 2821 first.
Okay, I'm sorry, 2821.
That there are no public comments on that one. This is the text amendment for the allow dormitory in CBD 1 district. Staff recommends approval.
All right, staff, we have a recommendation for staff approval for zoning docket 2821. Are there any questions as it relates to zoning docket 2821? All right, if there are no questions, do we have a motion? Any questions on motion?
Sorry, motion to approve docket 02821 according to staff recommendation.
All right, it's been moved by Commissioner Mobley for approval of staff recommendation. Is there a second to that motion?
Witry will second that motion.
Commissioner Witry has seconded that motion. At this time now, are there any questions about the motion or comments from any commissioner? Any further discussion on the motion? If there's no further discussion on the motion, I'll call the question. Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Lund?
Yes.
Commissioner Mobley?
Yes.
Commissioner Steve?
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart? Yes. Commissioner Witry?
Yes.
The motion is approved. Now we will continue on to zoning docket 2921.
All right, there are several comments. First is from Harry Shearer, who submitted 2 comments. So in accordance with all rules, I'll just read the first one. Harry Shearer, 1107 Dauphine Street. In support, I live in the quarter. I cherish its uniqueness and its scale. We knew that the city council made a serious mistake in waiving restrictions of the master plan even before the Hard Rock became a disaster area. We've been given a second chance. Let's not waste it. Next from Aaron Holmes, 816 North Rampart, representing VC Pora. Your commissioners, VC Pora supports the staff recommendation and council request to rescind the conditional use that permitted increases in height and floor area ratio, along with a non-accessory parking garage to the properties of the former Hard Rock collapse site. The original conditional use was granted on a proposed plan that called for a mixed-use commercial and residential development. After several years and significant changes to the CZO, the developers were able to retain their entitlements and shift the project into a hotel development. VC Pora strongly opposed these variances in 2011 and continues to advocate that any future redevelopment of these parcels must have to conform with the underlying zoning restrictions or proceed through a full public vetting before being granted any new conditional use or variance. Under no circumstances should the property owners be allowed to hold onto these lucrative developmental bonuses, given the negligence and history of this tragic site. Next from Stephen Bergeron, 336 North St. Patrick Street, in support. As mentioned in the staff report, this conditional use could and should have been revoked when the use was changed from mixed use with multifamily residential to a hotel. Overall, staff felt that the potential negative impacts associated with shading due to the proposed building height and traffic were outweighed by the positive effects of bringing in an important vacant retail corner back to commerce. The Hard Rock Hotel would not have created what had been presented to the City Planning Commission and the City Council in 2011. The developer betrayed the public's trust before construction began. What has happened since then only adds insult to injury. Please revoke this conditional use. Next from Felicia Pore, 8818 Oleander Street, in opposition. Too many units. I'm sorry, that's for another zoning docket. That was the last comment from Mr. Bergeron.
All right, thank you so much for reading those into the record. Larry, I'm just gonna ask, can you check to make sure that we're still up and running and the public is able to follow along with us? I was reading ahead and I read some comments that said that they were locked out. So let's just check to make sure the public is still able to view what's going on. All right, commissioners, at this time, are there any comments or questions for staff or a motion as it relates to this zoning docket?
There's no questions. I'll make a motion to go along with staff approval for approval of the rescission of zoning docket 029-21.
All right, it's been moved by Commissioner Witry for approval based on staff recommendations. Is there a second to that motion?
Commissioner Mobley will second.
And Commissioner Mobley has seconded that motion. Is there any further discussion on the motion or any comments from any commissioner? There's no further discussion on the motion. I'll call the question. Commissioner Brown.
Yes.
Commissioner Lund.
Yes.
Mobley.
Yes.
Commissioner Steed.
Yes.
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 Commissioner Witry.
Yes.
So at this time, unanimous support for the motion for approval for zoning docket 2921. We'll continue on with our agenda to zoning docket 3021.
There are no comments for this zoning docket. And Mr. Chair, I also just checked the YouTube channel and we are live.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. So for zoning docket 3021, we did not receive any public comment. Stephen, can you remind us of what that recommendation was?
We're recommending deferral to May 25th.
All right. So commissioners, at this time now, do you have, is there a motion or question as it relates to zoning docket 3021?
Brown moves to defer until May 25th per staff's recommendation.
All right, it's been moved by Commissioner Brown for deferral to May 25th. Is there a second to that motion?
Witry will second.
Commissioner Witry has seconded that motion. Is there any further discussion on the motion or any comments or questions? There are no further comments or questions on the motion. I'll call the question. Commissioner Brown.
Yes.
Commissioner Lund.
Yes.
Commissioner Mobley.
Yes.
Commissioner Steed.
Yes.
Yes. Commissioner Witry.
Yes.
Unanimous support for deferral until May 25th. And we'll continue on with our agenda to zoning docket 3121.
There are no public comments.
All right, we received no public comments. Stephen?
The staff recommendation is approval subject to 1 waiver and 16 provisos.
Okay. So commissioners, at this time now, do you have a question for staff or a motion for zoning docket 3121?
Commissioner Lon, I move for approval of zoning docket 3121 as recommended by staff with 1 waiver and 16 provisos, please.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. It's been moved by Commissioner Lund for approval based on staff recommendation with 1 waiver and 16 provisos. Is there a second to that motion?
Commissioner Mobley will second.
Commissioner Mobley has seconded that motion. At this time now, is there any discussion on the motion, questions or comments? Being none, I'll call the question. Commissioner Brown.
Yes.
Commissioner Lund.
Yes.
Commissioner Mobley.
Yes.
Commissioner Steed.
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart. Yes. Commissioner Witry.
Yes.
I have unanimous support for approval for zoning docket 3121, and we'll continue on to zoning docket 3221.
There are 2 public comments. The first is from Felicia Poire, 8818 Oleander Street. In opposition, too many units in 1 square block, single family or doubles preferred, no apartment building, parking concerns, concentration of too many people in square block, rentals with transient residents destabilize any neighborhood and particularly the Holly Grove neighborhood. Renovations of existing are great. 3-story building not in agreement with 20 units, not acceptable. Next from Teresa Banks Lewis, 8734 Colapissa, in opposition. The biggest concerns are the large volume of additional people that will pour into an already congested neighborhood that already lacks proper infrastructure and drainage. Monroe becomes a lake with normal rain. Next, safety. An influx of folks that are not vested to the neighborhood has the potential of increasing crime. Next, parking. I have attached a picture that from the Cambron Palm Strolitz area at Cypress Apartment residents are providing parking. However, both sides of several streets are parked with cars. This will be a disaster on Monroe, Colapissa, Fig, and other surrounding streets, especially on Monroe with the Leonidas bus trying to navigate. Where will the current residents park? Next, traffic. Earhart and Monroe, even during the pandemic, have been extremely busy, especially during morning and evening rush hour. This is not progress when it ignores current residents' quality of life who live in close proximity. And that is the last comment.
All right. Thank you for that. And staff recommendation for this was deferral to May 11th. However, since we heard from opposition on the zoning docket, the applicant was in agreement with the deferral, but I'm going to ask if the applicant is still present, if they want to speak to the opposition that we just heard from those 2 public comments that we received. Is the representative still present? Or no representative? Okay. All right. So commissioners, at this time now, any comments, questions for staff or a motion?
Commissioner Lund, question for staff. The corner where the 20-unit building is being proposed, new construction, is that the C1 zoning? I assume it is, yeah. Would that be by right then? 20 units?
The only residential use that's permitted in the C1 General Commercial District is dwellings above ground floor commercial, and that is a conditional use. So the use exception that would be granted for the affordable housing plan development would allow multifamily within a general commercial.
Okay, so the use exception would be the ground floor. Use is all residential. Right?
Correct.
You would not be putting in any commercial. Right.
Correct.
Okay. And one other question, in the housing opportunity study, I think it is, my understanding, the encouragement was to have some corner locations where it was possible to have a higher density of residential dwellings, that was being encouraged because it's something that was needed. Is that my correct understanding?
Stephen, are you able to speak to that?
I think Paul or Larry can speak generally to the housing opportunity study. It's not, to the extent that that is something that comes out of the study, it hasn't been implemented yet in the zoning ordinance, so it's not a factor in the staff's analysis.
Too early to talk about that. I'll wait with any questions until we receive a report. Thank you.
All right, commissioners, do we have any more questions or comments for staff or a motion for this docket matter?
Witchery will make a motion to defer the zoning docket 032-21 and remind me of the date. Was it May 25th or May 13th?
11th.
May 11th.
Oh, totally off. Okay, May 11th, please.
Commissioner Lund will second it.
All right, it's been moved by Commissioner Witchery for deferral to May 11th, seconded by Commissioner Lund. Is there any further discussion on that motion? If not, I'll call the question. Commissioner Brown.
Yes.
Commissioner Lund.
Yes.
Commissioner Mobley.
Yes.
Commissioner Steeg.
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart. Yes. Commissioner Witchery.
Yes.
Unanimous support for deferral to May 11th. We'll continue on with the agenda to zoning docket 3321. I'm going to believe you received.
All right, there are several comments. First is from Stacy Daly, 1525 Verna Court, in opposition. I'm very upset about 5G. We received an invitation to attend a teleconference. However, there's no direction as to how. I have sent emails in the past and been ignored. I wanted my voice, and my neighbors want their voices to be heard. Stop ignoring your citizens. Ironically, one of the towers is going on a street now named for Fats Domino. We care about the name of the street, but not the citizens who live on it. If we are supposed to listen to the scientists, then please listen to the more than 2,500 and growing everyday scientists who are warning against 5G. Next, from Lynn Parker, 15531 Verna Court, in opposition. Several neighbors on Verna Court and nearby streets oppose 5G tower due to scientific studies on health effects. There should be a public meeting about adverse health implications. Next, from Linda DePanesis, in opposition. I do not want 5G in our neighborhood. My husband had stage 4 cancer. Please think of the citizens that live in this neighborhood. All 5G towers are killing us. And next is another comment from Stacy Daly, so I won't read that one. And that is the last comment.
All right, thank you for reading those comments. But earlier we had our representative on from Churchill. Is that representative still present? Representative from Churchill Downs. Okay.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm not sure what's going on. This is Rachel Scroggins, but I'm speaking on behalf of AT&T.
Okay. All right. So we've heard opposition, and based on that, you have 3 minutes if you want to add any additional comments to the opposition that we heard in doing the public comment.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to add is Stacy touched on it. On February the 2nd at 6 p.m., we did host a neighborhood participation meeting via Zoom. Myself, AT&T representatives, and an AT&T RF engineer participated in this call. And at that time, we addressed all the public concerns regarding 5G and similar health concerns during that meeting.
Okay, thank you. At this time now, commissioners, do you have any questions for the representative or for staff or a motion?
Commissioner Witry has a question, and this is a technical question. With regards, since there was not an NPP meeting in person, but via Zoom, does there have to be the addresses where notifications were actually sent out? I did not see that in the report, and so I just wanted to follow up on that.
Yeah, so the NPP, I can speak to that. The NPP requirement does not require an in-person meeting. It does require the same notification processes, and so there's notification that occurs via postal mail. That was done, I believe, so it's probably just a omission in the staff report that the list was not included as an attachment. But yeah, I mean, it's part of our normal completeness review to ensure that NPPs are complete before we schedule applications, so that would have been done.
Can we just verify that there was a list that had went out? That's why I had reviewed the report a couple times and I just didn't see the address list. And I just think that's an important component to this.
I can, this is Rachel Scroggins. I can confirm that we did send out notifications to the list that we were provided with. I think it had something like 1,500 residents on there and everybody received notification.
Was that through the U.S. Postal Service?
Yes, it was.
I'm checking right now on One Stop just to make sure that we have it. It might take a minute.
While the staff is reviewing that name list, are there any other questions for the representative or additional questions for staff as it relates to this zoning docket?
Commissioner Lund, so I wanted to ask, there is currently one cell tower nearby?
Yes, that's correct. It's actually a light pole that AT&T is mounted on. That pole cannot structurally support the new antennas, so that is why we're proposing to put a new tower within the same compound, take AT&T's antennas off of the light pole and put them onto the new tower.
Okay, so it would be a replacement.
This would be within the same compound where AT&T is already located.
All right, so it will be a replacement tower for essentially for what's there now.
Both towers will remain. The one that AT&T is currently mounted on will just be a light pole for the racetrack.
A light pole, so not with the concerns of the health concerns that were expressed in the opposition, right?
Correct, for the existing tower.
Right, so that condition is already there. The current tower presents the same health concerns. Whoever would have a concern about that would have the same concern for the existing tower as for the replacement one.
That's correct, yes.
Mm-hmm.
It seems that the problem is that the NPP, for some reason, is all the NPP information in One Stop is listed as a separate thing from the conditional use, but it's all there. I just opened it and the list is there, the letter's there, everything's there. It's just not, for some reason, there's conditional use and then there's NPP, but it all goes together and it's all in One Stop.
Missy, thank you so much for checking. Ann Aspen, yes.
Okay, commissioners, do you have any additional questions for staff or for the representative from AT&T that's with us as it relates to this zoning docket? And also, please let the record reflect that Commissioner Weberg has joined us as well.
I'm prepared to make a motion if there are no questions.
Yes, Commissioner Lund.
Commissioner Lund, so I've moved that approval of the conditional use as recommended by staff for the extended height and the movement, change of placement for the cell tower at this location. I do understand the concerns about health and safety, but just realizing that there's already that condition in place. This is just a matter of putting it in a different location. And so I agree with staff's recommendation to go ahead.
All right, it's been moved by Commissioner Lund for approval of staff recommendation for approval. Is there a second to that motion?
Commissioner Mobley will second.
Been seconded by Commissioner Mobley. Is there any further discussion on the motion on the floor? Any further discussion on the motion on the floor? There's no further discussion. I'll call the question. Commissioner Brown.
Yes.
One.
Yes.
Mobley.
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
Stewart, yes. Commissioner Weberg.
Yes.
Witry, yes.
And the support for approval for approval. We'll continue to move on to subdivision docket 3221.
There are no public comments for that docket.
Okay, we received no public comment. And Stephen, if you can remind us of what the staff recommendation was for that one.
Tentative approval subject to 3 provisos.
Commissioners, at this time, do you have any comments, questions for staff, or a motion?
Witry will move to approve zoning docket 032-21 with tentative approval with 3 provisos.
Moved by Commissioner Witry for tentative approval for subdivision docket 3221. Is there a second to that motion?
Commissioner Mobley will second.
Commissioner Mobley has seconded that motion for tentative approval. Is there any further discussion on the motion on the floor? Any further discussion on the motion? Comments or questions? Being none, I'll call the question. Commissioner Brown.
Yes.
Commissioner Lund.
Yes.
Commissioner Mobley.
Yes.
Commissioner Steed.
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart, yes. Commissioner Weberg.
Yes.
Witry.
Yes.
All right, unanimous support for tentative approval for subdivision docket 3221. We will continue on with the agenda to street name change 00121.
All right, there are several comments. The first is from Reverend Willie Calhoun, 2125 Delary Street, in support. This will help future generations to remember Fats Domino's contributions to the lower Ninth Ward community. Next, from Samantha Alexander, 636 Flood Street, in opposition. I'm opposed to the name change. I have not been able to find any evidence of Catherine being a slave owner, so using that as an excuse to change the name because this is a Black neighborhood is misleading. Changing name on a truck route will make things unnecessarily confusing. Set up a plaque for Fats in front of his house. He didn't even live over here anymore. Next, from Thomas Tate, 636 Flood Street, in opposition. It seems presumptuous to change the name because it's named after a white person in a Black neighborhood. Our neighborhood is very diverse, Black, white, Filipino, we're all here. It seems the decision on changes to the neighborhood should be given to the people it will affect. We don't want the name change. Next, from Heron St. Raymond, 420 St. Maurice Avenue, in support. I am in support of the name change to Fats Domino Avenue. Next, from Calvin Alexander, 603 Caffin Avenue, in opposition. Our opposition is based on the purported reason that Mr. Caffin was a slaveholder. Our research on this matter seems to show that he only became comptroller of the Lombard plantation in 1864, well after the Emancipation Proclamation. The Union Army had already occupied the city since late 1862. The only reference found to slaves in connection to this property was an ownership transfer around 1833, wherein 2 slaves were transferred with the property. We would like to see the street simply given the honorarium of Antoine Fats Domino. This is a truck route, and officially changing the name would present new challenges to the delivery drivers who deliver to the wharves on the river. Please at least consider delaying a vote on this matter until your next scheduled meeting. Thank you. Next, from Katrina Alexander, 5335 Royal Street, in opposition. While parts of the neighborhood had been a part of Catherine's plantation, there has been no evidence to substantiate that he owned slaves on the plantation. He got it after the Civil War anyway and sold parts so that a neighborhood could be built. There's also no reason to change the name after so many years and erase its history. I have lived on Catherine Avenue and in this neighborhood since the 4th grade, and the thought of it changing is just absurd. Make it honorary if you want, but don't change the street name. Next, from Victoria Lewandowski. I'm sorry, that's on the property disposition. So that was the last comment.
All right. Thank you, Paul, for reading those into record. We've received opposition for a street name change. So if at this time, if we still have a representative from Council Member Nguyen's office with us, I will yield to them for 3 minutes for a rebuttal. But it seems like no one is on from Councilman Nguyen's office. We have a representative. All right. If not, commissioners, at this time now, any questions, comments to the street name change or a motion?
I want to offer a comment. As this was not part of the Confederate street renaming process, Councilmember Nguyen's office was not required to offer a rationale citing slave ownership as the reason to change this name. And I feel that the comments and opposition in centering that are perhaps giving greater weight to a negative argument than to an affirmative one for honoring someone who was an essential part of that neighborhood and who is a central part of New Orleans' musical legacy to the world. I also, to my fellow commissioners, while I will be recusing myself from the Confederate street process, appreciate this as an example of a small taste of the types of comments to come. Thanks.
Actually, Commissioner Mobley, I have a question for you. So then is it one of the criteria for, I suppose it is, for if it's based on the Confederate history, that any renaming have a basis in that the person who's currently named for had some active like slave ownership or participation with Confederate, something that, is that what you're saying, that the Councilwoman's office was not required to apply the same criteria? Right. They also haven't offered any evidence of what they said, and there have been 2 comments that say that they have researched it and there isn't evidence of it. And so I'm all for naming a street for Fats Domino. I'm a little concerned about ignoring that there may not, I don't see the evidence for what they're asserting.
So I would say that the evidence is not necessary, which is why the street was not included as a Confederate street, and that the council member's office made a decision to use a parallel framework, but would have been perfectly within its rights to assert naming the street for Fats Domino, regardless of who it is currently named for.
Well, in that case,
and introducing that argument was perhaps an ill-chosen.
Right, and now presents a requirement to ignore something, possibly. That might be true.
Mr. Chairman? As a resident of the Ninth Ward, I would proudly support the motion, and I would put forward the motion to support staff recommendation and the councilman's recommendation and change the name of Caffin Avenue to Fats Domino Avenue, I believe.
It's been moved. It's been moved by Commissioner Weberg for approval of the street name change. Is there a second to that motion?
Which, Matt Missy?
I think there needs to be added that they're waiving the requirement that the person be deceased for more than 5 years. If you could just add that to your motion.
As the party is deceased, we will waive the provision that it be more than 5 years.
All right. It's been moved by Commissioner Weberg for the approval of the street name change, in addition to the waiver of the 5-year requirement. Is there
Witry will second this. I think there's a big public benefit here and gladly would support the motion.
That motion is seconded by Commissioner Witry. Is there any further discussion or comments from any commissioner on the motion on the floor?
I want to thank the Alderman's office for meeting the other standards. We're changing the full name of the street. I think some of the comments were around implementation, and by doing the full street, it allows all those changes to be implemented at once and alleviates a lot of that confusion. So thank you for meeting the other standards of the implementation. It's greatly appreciated.
Commissioner Lund, so I'd like to comment that I would ask that city council members, when they're presenting such a thing, that they consider, if they're making statements about slave ownership or anything in connection with the Confederacy, that it be backed up with evidence and or have someone present to discuss it. I respect the comments that the public, have made, that if you're going to use that for a reason to change the name or a part of the reason to change the name, it should be backed up by evidence. And but I am, however, in support of changing the name, so I'm going to vote for it.
I second Commissioner Lund's comments on that. It is much easier if there's a motion coming forward to have someone from the office to speak to it. That is always helpful.
Any other comments from any other commissioner before I call the question? All right, if there's no further discussion at this time now, I'll call the question. Commissioner Brown.
Yes.
Commissioner Lund.
Yes.
Commissioner Mobley.
Yes.
Commissioner Steve.
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart, yes. Commissioner Weberg.
Yes.
Commissioner Witry.
Yes.
Unanimous support of the street change. And we will continue on to property disposition 00121.
All right, we have several comments. First from Victoria Lewandowski, representing Councilmember Cindy Nguyen's office in support. Councilmember Nguyen supports this property disposition request. Next from Pete Morano, 526 Caffin Avenue. Would like to provide request information. That was actually for Fats Domino Avenue, and he was in support of that. And then last from Amy Scangliato, 4805 Henneken Place, in support. My name is Amy Scangliato, and I live at 4805 Henneken Place in Metairie. I am the owner of 4523 Reed Boulevard. The portion of land owned by the city is approximately 50 by 57. My property surrounds this piece of land on two sides, and the other two sides are surrounded by the street. Back when the subdivision was developed, a small piece of corner was used to build a subdivision marker on it. It was home to a small brick wall with the name of the subdivision across it. Unfortunately, the marker was damaged in 2005 during Hurricane Katrina. Sometime around 2010, the city made it perfectly clear that there was no further use for this piece of land when they installed a brand new subdivision marker across the street on the neutral ground, abandoning the subdivision marker on the corner and leaving it in disrepair. What was remaining of the subdivision marker was almost completely destroyed by the tornado that hit New Orleans East in 2017. Today, in its present condition, I would define it as blight. It is a complete eyesore. It has become the victim of illegal dumping along with my own property. In its current condition, it sends the message that no one cares. Well, I care. our intentions are to clean up that piece of corner and make it nice again for all the citizens of New Orleans East, so they no longer have to see such an eyesore when they are at the intersection of Reed and Shell. That's the last comment.
All right. Thank you so much for reading that into the record. At this time now, commissioners, is there any comments, questions for staff, or a motion?
Commissioner Lund, so I move for approval of property disposition 00121 as recommended by staff. Yes.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Lund for approval for property disposition. I lost it. 00121. Is there a second to that motion?
Second, Brown seconds.
Commissioner Brown is seconding that motion. Is there any further discussion, comments on the motion on the floor? If there's no further discussion, I'll call the question and let the record reflect that Commissioner Stieg has excused himself, so he will not be voted on this matter. And I'm going to start with Commissioner Witry in celebration of her birthday. I'll let you vote first.
Very kind. Yes, Commissioner Witry is in support of the motion.
Commissioner Weberg?
Oh, I was trying to figure out how to pin a virtual dollar on for the birthday. I apologize. Yes, I'm in support.
All right, Commissioner Stewart, yes. Commissioner Mobley?
Yes, Venmo her.
Our Cash App, Commissioner Lund.
Yes.
And Commissioner Brown.
Yes.
Okay, so unanimous support for disposition of the property for property disposition 00121. Our last item is ratification of certified subdivisions.
No public comments.
All right, we didn't receive any public comment for that. Any comments, questions, or a motion?
We need to make a motion to defer, correct? These items?
No, this is to go forward. It's just a typo on the agenda.
Motion to ratify is recommended by staff.
It's been moved by Commissioner Weberg for ratification as recommended by staff. Is there a second to that motion?
Second, Commissioner Lund.
Second by Commissioner Lund. Is there any further discussion on the motion on the floor? There's no further discussion. I'll call the question. Commissioner Witry?
Yes.
Commissioner Weberg?
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart, yes. Commissioner Mobley?
Yes.
Commissioner Lund?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
All right. And we'll continue on to on our agenda as printed, zoning docket 3421, zoning docket 3521, zoning docket 3621, zoning docket 3721, zoning docket 3821, zoning docket 3921. Has all been recommended for deferral. Commissioners can have a motion so that we can get that on the record to move those items for deferral so that we can pick them up at the next meeting.
Move to defer those items.
All right, it's been moved by Commissioner Brown for those docket items in Global to be moved for deferral. Is there a second to that motion?
Seconded, Commissioner Lund.
It's been seconded by Commissioner Lund. Is there any further discussion on the motion for deferral? Any further discussion on the motion that's on the floor for deferral? Being none, I'll call the question. Commissioner Witry,
Yes, that's some problems over here.
Commissioner Weaver,
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart, yes. Commissioner Mobley,
Yes.
Commissioner One,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Yes.
All right. So at this time now, that concludes our agenda items. Once again, Commissioner Witry, happy birthday. I hope that you have you celebrating, you get a piece of that big cookie that we just saw on the camera. So the chair will entertain a motion for adjournment.
I move for adjournment of the meeting.
Moved by Commissioner Watson.
Witry will second. And I bet that cookie is completely gone now. And cheers to my colleagues for bringing my children to the office.
Witry has seconded that motion for adjournment at 4:28. The chair will take a hand raise. There's no opposition. All in favor for adjournment, raise your hand. Any opposition, please state. 4:28. Have a great day, guys.
Have a good
Bye,
day.
everybody.
Happy birthday, Katie.